Welcome to this week's session with the Putnam County District Library Guiding Ohio Online Grant. This week we are going to take a look at 3 different AI tools. I believe the session was advertised as 5, but for time purposes, because it's a lot of information, we're just going to look at 3 this week, and then we'll look at some additional ones next week. Please keep in mind, this project was supported in whole or part by the Federal Institute of the Museum and Library Services Funds, granted through the State Library of Ohio. The opinions expressed herein do not necessarily reflect the position or policy of IMLS or the State Library of Ohio, and no official endorsement by either agency should be inferred. So the first tool that we are going to look at is Napkin. Napkin transforms and takes business, typically business, but it could be for anything really, and it takes visuals and creates diagrams, charts, and infographics. So what you are going to do is we're going to simply go to sign in here. I'm at napkin.ai, and when I sign in, which I am already signed in, and you can tell that I have already done a search where I had recognized your top performers on your team. And so what I've got here is a document that it has created, and you notice this document then breaks down ways to recognize the strategies, so forth, all of this information in terms of how to recognize these what would be your performers for your business. But what is so nice about this site is this it assists you with being able to paste text into the platform and highlight key sections and it'll generate graphics to go along with it. So if I click here to generate a graphic, it's going to take that information. You can see how it's got the blue dots there flashing, and it's doing its little work. The one thing I will tell you with so many of these tools with AI, some of them does take a little bit of time to process. So what you've got here then is you have these tools that show up that actually have some graphics associated with them to help you have a visual for what you are trying to present and show based upon the information that you have entered. There's always down here in the corner this ability to click here and you can get some help when it comes to Napkin. You can, if I click here on home, it's going to always just take me back to the very beginning, but I can go to help. I can actually create and send messages to Napkin if I so choose, and get some answers in terms of how to go about using Napkin. Notice here when it does that, I also have down here at the bottom, I have this sketch, so I can actually write on my document. I'm going to close this up. This is just with the support. I can actually add and go out and find an image as well. I can label things, and I can do what's called a spark search. And a spark search is going to go in, and I can add these particular images, the rectangle, so forth. And I can always go up here to the top, click my undo, and get rid of anything here that I have added in and created. If I go to the library, it's going to take me back here to what I had started with. I'm going to simply close that back up. So anything that I have created, obviously recent, this is what I have created. Up here at the top is where I would go to share if I wanted to share this with someone else. This is also obviously where I can do my different styles, so I can change my styles, and I always have my canvas settings here that I can change. So I could invert this if I so choose to the black, whichever way is visually more appealing to myself to view. So that is Napkin. The second II tool we're going to look at is Notebook LM. Again, it's notebooklm.google.com. This is a Google product, and this assists you with understanding more complex texts, and you're able to ask questions and so forth. You can see I've already had created one notebook. I'm going to create another notebook to show you how this works. If I click here on Notebook, notice I have all of these different ways I can add information. So I can do it through my Google Drive, I can do it through a link, or I can simply do it by text that I would copy and paste in. Or I can even just drag a file in. Notice the formats supported here are listed. I'm just going to go to copy text real quick here because I have some text that I had already copied. If I take this text, I copy this text in. I'm going to simply say insert. And now I have created my notebook. And one thing I am going to say, as I expressed with the previous tool, was that these do take some time to run. But we can do a mind map based upon, we can do what's audio, we can do video, we can create any of these based off of that text. So it's going to take that text. Notice, again, it's taking the time to generate this. I can get this fairly quickly. So now I have a mind map based upon that text that I had put in. The other two will take much more time there. I had went in previously, this was, let me go back here one more time, screen, because I believe it was, and I do have from doing this previous to obviously connecting with you, I had went in and created a video overview as well as an audio overview. So now those are visible. Those did take a little bit of time to create, but when I click on that, this is what I'm going to see. So it's going to play.
All right, today we're going to peel back the layers of history on a piece of land we now call.
So I have that, as well as I also have an auditory. Great tool to be able to use. Paste some information in, boom, let it create. I do not ever recommend that you do this and think you're going to immediately use that, because it is going to take a little bit of period of time for that to generate. I say it took probably about 5 to 10 minutes from when I created that before we started today till when it actually appeared. But I logged back in, it's there now for me to use. And then the last thing we're going to look at is Google Gemini. We've looked at Google Gemini in the past, but what I want you to see and understand is I am using Google Gemini here on an actual computer. If I was using it on a phone, a mobile type of device like that, there is what is called Gemini Live. So I can talk to Gemini just like I'm talking to you here today. But I wanted you to see how I can kind of do that on a desktop as well. If I were to click here on the microphone, now Gemini's listening to me. I am going to ask if it will please provide me with the schedule for the Ohio State Buckeyes football games. Now, I was very vague. I did not say this year. So let's see what we get. So I did get this year's, and now I have the schedule, I have the times they play, and I can actually see anything that has to do with the Ohio State games. Obviously that came to mind because anybody who knows, this is being created in Ohio, and the big game, start of the season, is this weekend. So that is what I see here on a desktop. Again, I could do the same, very similar on a phone, and it's going to have a conversation with me back and forth. and I would get the same information, just be able to use Gemini Live on my mobile device. That is the three tools that we were going to look at this week. So we looked at Napkin AI, Notebook LM, and Gemini Live. All three of these tools, I was simply using what is available for free. Do keep in mind when you start talking about AI tools, Napkin is one where you get so much information a day, I believe it is, using Napkin, but then at some point you do have to pay. If I go back to Napkin here, I believe here's where Napkin is at. Don't think I can see it here from the start screen, but I do know that it has a subscription plan. Obviously has the free, and then I believe it's $9, and I don't remember what the third one is. So that is the three tools this week we're going to look at. We're going to look at additional tools next week. Remember, this project is supported in whole or part by the Federal Institute of the Museum and Library Services. Hope everyone has a fantastic Labor Day. See you next week.